Oh, I'm on. Now let me just see if my person can see me. All right, I'm here. I'm definitely here. And we are here. All right. So let's just gather palms together for a moment and take a breath and let the breath go back out. And then soften hands down to your lap, wherever it's comfortable. And take some time to feel your ground settle, the base of your torso, making some contact with the earth that supports you from beneath. Even if you're not actually sitting on earth, we are sitting on surface that is grounded and rooted, as are we. All the time, we just forget to notice. So do that noticing now. Affixing the base of your seat to the surface on which it's being held. And let's not underestimate what it is to be held. Especially when so much of what's swirling around us feels like it's pushing and pulling and disorienting, always changing. That simple reminder that we are held in steady ground perhaps is comforting. And then from that held sensation, we can rise up. We can get the spine alert and buoyant and let all of the messaging that runs through it from the base to the crown, back and out in all of its branches through the nervous system to be open and available. In that open, available space between ground and spine and existence is breath, full and free and waiting for our attention to rest on it. And we can do that now, noticing the inhales, noticing the exhales. Making room for the natural way of the mind to grab onto lots of things at once. Recognizing that that's normal and correct and inevitable. But let the breath be the centerpiece. Let the breath be the one shining beacon of steadiness and in its connection to the ground, rising up from it and returning from it. In that way, we are just like the trees, giving and receiving this exchange of life-giving air. Noticing when and how and where the mind dips away. And then just simply return awareness again to the breath, to the ground, to the space between. Letting in all the ambient sound of your immediate surroundings. If there are voices audible in your presence, or traffic, or wind, or air, or rumblings of the universe, take all that in as just part of the experience, part of the breath, and part of the ground. Receive it and then release it. And the less we argue with the distractions, the less power they hold. And then take the next few breaths a little deeper, a little more eagerly. And then bring your awareness back to your immediate surroundings, and you can move your body around a little bit, shift and twist and turn and stretch. All right. Oh, the camera did not like my stretch. It went all blurry. I'm going to refocus it. There we go. All right. So I called this talk in defense of the space cadet. And my theme this week is spaciousness. When I was growing up in the 70s and 80s, calling somebody a space cadet was a big insult. Is that still a thing that people say? Yeah, no, not for this generation, but yeah, it meant like ditzy or airheaded or not too smart, just kind of out there, not really with it, right? Um, I learned that originally the term was coined by a science fiction novelist named Robert Heinlein in the late 40s, and he wrote a novel called Space Cadet. And it was a coming of age story about a young person a boy from the Midwest who joins the Interplanetary Patrol to explore outer space, but not just to explore, but to bring peace in the solar system. And I think it became a television series in the 50s or something. And I thought that was really cool. You know, the meaning obviously shifted for the next generation of what a space cadet was, but I would like to reclaim it as an admirable state. Imagine us right here, right now, as explorers of an inner realm of space where we are seeking to create peace. That we can be tasked with going in there deep, where it is, according to the sages and the ancients, it is as vast a space of consciousness as the solar system, as the Milky Way, as the entire universe. And it's so vast, again, according to the sages and the ancient teachers of this and other mindfulness traditions, it is well capacitated, this consciousness that's encapsulated and referenced and operated by our brains to absorb, to digest, and process back out all of the information and feedback and sensory experience of the human existence in such a way that can leave us at peace if we choose to frame things that way. And I think that it's could be described as a sort of quiet alert state where we're simultaneously floating as if in outer space, so quiet, so peaceful, but with the full understanding that things are going to be shooting our direction all the time. Stars, comets, comments, other people, vicious things and hard things and pandemic-y things. And at the same time, because we are well equipped as these space cadets, we're armed with tools and skills to take whatever flies at us and work it through and send it back out on its way. To not accept the things to not accept the things that hurt us, and at the same time to allow ourselves to experience that hurt because it's real, it's valid, it's true, and at the same time we are gifted and beyond equipped to handle it all. A while back, I conceptualized 12 embodiments of yoga, 12 ways in which the yogic tradition can, my papers are flying, hang on. They're flying in space. 12 ways in which we can embody the ideal state of yoga, of that union of mind, body, spirit, breath, and soul. And those 12 embodiments include quiet and attention and practice and some sacrifice and some kindness and some generosity and compassion and spaciousness. It's a recognition of the porous nature of who we are. This skin is not solid, not in the least. It's so spacious. It's literally porous, with pores, with openings that absorb and that process back out, just as open as our mouth when we take it wide, right? We are porous spirits. And some call that spaciousness inside spirit. Some call it God. Some call it energy. All of it is spacious existence, without which we're going to be hurting beings if we're closed and rigid. A lack of space in the body results in compression and friction. We know this from when joint spaces get tight and compressed. It doesn't feel good. We know this when digestion slows down and we're tense and holding things in, literally. We understand that a lack of space in the mind, too, results in discomfort, mental and emotional friction. There's difficult terrain that we tread when we're not as spacious as we could be and end up in obsession or fear or dark, heaviness of depression or the propulsion of anxiety. This lack of spaciousness in the mind, in fact, is the demon of the algorithm. The algorithm, if we spend any time on the internet or on social media, it feeds on, it relies on, it depends on a lack of spaciousness in our minds. And we've been quietly and secretly and underhandedly been programmed not to be spacious in the mind, down to the cellular level, where there's proven biochemical results that reward us for engaging with material with a closed mind. That dopamine hit that we get on the internet, and especially in social media, when we see our own narrow views affirmed, and then the biochemical hit of adrenaline we get with the anger when we see the opposite side affirmed. This is all from a lack of spaciousness. We get rewarded for a narrow mindset. And a lack of spaciousness in the heart affects all the realms: physical, emotional, relational, and the way we engage in the world with each other. So what I want to be clear about is that spaciousness does not equate to giving up on our convictions. It's the opposite. Spaciousness means that we can have our convictions fervently and adamantly, firmly. If they're righteous and true, then they're worth holding on to. But what we have to learn how to do, all of us, me included, everybody, is to have those convictions, to act on them from a spacious place so that we can find the bridges more quickly than we build the divides. And I think that's the only possible way forward out of all of the challenges that we find ourselves in right now as a society. There's always going to be an other, always. And so not everyone will get to be pulled into our space that we deem holy, nor should they. I think in order to have this inner spaciousness and an outer spaciousness at the same time, it's critical that we create this inward-facing boundary so we can hold our own space confidently with fortitude and strength so that we can withstand and tolerate the other. As we go into our next period of sitting quietly, I'll offer this analogy of driving on a winding road at night. You can't really, if an unlit road, only lights are the headlights of your own vehicle. You can't really take your eye off the yellow line. That's the only guide. But the spaciousness that helps it be not so stressful is that you know that all that darkness around you is not walls, it's space, it's sky, it's ground, it's trees, it's clouds, it's whatever it is. We stay focused on the yellow line. We steer accordingly. This is us navigating our lives along our convictions, along our beliefs, along what we know in our hearts to be true. And understanding too that what feels like darkness is just space. And maybe that darkness is all of our fears, all of our worries, our anxieties, our dis-ease. And that yellow line is the thing that we just know we follow. So we'll practice with that imagery a little bit right now. Let the yellow line represent what we know to be true in our hearts. And you can have some sort of affirmation. I am compassion embodied. I am love. I am worthy of love and forgiveness, and I can give love and forgiveness. I am beauty from within. I am glorious. I am peaceful. Whatever it is, those are my words. You have words. Take the words that are most meaningful for you and let those be your yellow line to guide you. And recognize all of the unwanted stuff in the darkness around. Our work is not to make it go away because we can't and it won't. Our work is to recognize that we have enough space to accommodate it, to let it be what it is, as we be what we are. In this analogy of driving down a dark, windy road at night, the breath is your steering wheel. So hold gently to that. And recognize as the mind trails away, it will dip into those dark woods. Take a breath, return to the task at hand of steering the vehicle in which we ride every day of our lives. And find that yellow line again. the one that affirms our highest and best self. Haters gonna hate. They live in the dark woods. Nothing we can do about that, but we can steer away. Notice the mind's tendency to trail off away from the yellow line into the dark space around, to look for something to latch onto, to look for something to hook our negative feelings on. Stand alongside that reality with an understanding, a recognition of your breath as the driver of the vehicle that holds to that yellow line that is real and true, that tells you everything you need to know about yourself right now. Let your breath continue to operate, to carry you, to steer you through the vast space. Holding the way. providing the direction. And then deepen the breath a little bit. Come to a symbolic end of this particular ride. And once again, wriggle around a little bit if you'd like to stretch or change your leg position in any way. I want to talk about the phrase that's become really common now in many circles, and that's holding space for people, holding space for somebody else. This comes from therapeutic lingo, and it's interesting to note that well, we know now that the rise in mental illness has skyrocketed as a result of the you know what. And even before this, there's an essay in the New Yorker from 4 years ago, from 2018. The writer Katie Waldman wrote, "Perhaps the language of mental health is burgeoning because actual mental health is declining." That was 4 years ago. And this phrase holding space has gotten so used that, like so many things that become cliche, it's almost lost its meaning. But again, I want to reclaim it as something that's really highly of value. Uh, the University of Michigan, a study from an experimental sociolinguist, suggests that we can disable institutional racism in part through language and other discrimination. And she writes that holding space can be like a synonym for the talking stick when it comes to ensuring that everyone within a collective has the opportunity to speak their mind. And this was a theory that was put into practice in the early 2010s in the Occupy Wall Street movement, which was a decentralized movement, no single one leader. So everybody got to have space held for them should they want to contribute and speak and share. Holding space means that everyone doesn't get to just be in the room, but they get to be in the room vocally and demonstrably. And especially in places where people have been marginalized for so long, it means creating a physical arena where there's room to consider every voice. Going back hundreds and hundreds of years, from the 1400s, the phrases holding forth and holding court mean a little bit of the same thing. They both infer a demand of attention and a deserving of attention. And in interpersonal terms, it's just showing up for another person to allow them to have whatever experience they're having, not to try and fix it for them, not to try and prove to them why it's happening or why it shouldn't be happening, but just to say, I see you, I hear you, I can feel your pain with you, and I'm going to share that for a moment. And it's putting aside our egos and our baggage and our own narratives so that people can just be and feel supported. Some of the ways in which we can effectively hold space for other people is to really listen, as opposed to just formulate what we're going to say when they're done talking. I notice myself doing that with my partner. He notices it too. Right? But just to really listen. Another way is not to center yourself. I referenced that just a moment ago about like putting aside the ego. Let the other person be centered for the moment. A third way to effectively hold space is to ask what would be helpful. Do you want me to help you come up with a solution, or do you just want to vent? And the fourth way is be open to the emotional results of the sharing and of the holding space, both our own and the person for whom we're holding that space. Let the tears flow. Don't try and put a damper on it. I had a teacher once who said, it's like someone has rung a bell when they're crying. And it's like us going and putting our hand on the bell so it stops ringing. Let it ring. Let freedom ring. Let feelings ring. And our own and each other's. Maybe anger is going to come out. Maybe frustration is going to come out. It's okay to just simply validate it in the moment. And if we have feedback, there's a time for that later. I think that those are some of the ways we can help each other be space cadets in all of the good ways. We'll do another short sit, and then I'll share a poem at the end of that. So once again, come to a comfortable seat, any way you like. The alert, upright posture can be helpful, but it can also be comforting to slouch and lean back a little bit. So that's not wrong. Once again, notice the breath. And create the space for yourself to have this quiet experience, even if it doesn't feel quiet in your thinking brain. In the same way that haters are going to hate, thinkers are going to think, and we are all thinkers to some degree or another. So watch those thoughts, and then just try to put a little space, a little distance between your feeling tone, your sensation experience, and the thinking thoughts. Continuing to let the breath be the centerpiece of your awareness. And as we continue to sit quietly in this space, I'll share this short poem called A Moment's Hesitation at the Edge by a poet named Nivek from the website hellopoetry.com. Teetering on the edge of never and falling over, getting back up and willingly jumping into the darkness, leaving behind what you can do without, you travel lightly, find yourself in a spacious place called happiness. Just take some time now to let your chin drop down toward your chest and let your heart rise up toward your chin, meeting mind and heart, joining with breath, and bringing palms together with self-compassion and kindness for all. May all beings be happy. May all beings be free from suffering. May all beings be at peace. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Take good care, everybody.